Thank you. Carlissa, welcome, Miss Carlissa.
Hello, Jerica.
All right, just in time. Let's get us started here. Thank you guys for joining the Rotary Eclub of North Texas. There we go. We appreciate you guys coming. We have Richard Gilman here. He's a busy Rotarian. I'm excited to have our newest Rotarian, Gustav, is on the line with us. Gustav is a transfer from another club.
Welcome.
Welcome, Juliet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I think Gustav was from Richardson, the Richardson Club.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, well, welcome. Mr. David, would you lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
You'll join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To
to
the flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Justice for all.
Miss Linda, could you lead us in our invocation, please?
As we gather here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. And
Thank you, Miss Linda.
I was going to say, and then may the magic of Rotary be with us.
I love it. Love it. Mr. Chris, as our incoming president, can you read our vision statement?
Our vision statement. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves.
Thank you. It's always good to be reminded of the good work that we do and why we do it. So May is Youth Services Month. Just a reminder that that's kind of what our focus is. Camp Ryla is going on right now. It's a big district event where they take kids from various school districts and send them to a leadership class or a camp, and it's a fun, innovative way to really inspire our youth, and some really good things come from that. Just a reminder, we do have our end of the year banquet scheduled for July 15th. It's going to be out at Spring Creek Barbecue, and we're really excited. Chris and I are getting together. We do have a keynote speaker that will be joining us there, and we're looking at doing a service project as well. So more to come, but mark your calendar for those that are in person, July 15th.
Also, Jerica, Darren Collins, he has the project Hand Up. He's going to be in country during that time, and I had invited him to maybe speak for 5 minutes.
Perfect. That would be great. We'll slot that in. All right. Any other announcements, Miss Linda or Chris?
I don't know.
Linda and David was out at Vision today, donated 7 hours of time helping them set up their early childhood center. So we got that logged.
Wow, I appreciate that.
Anything else for the better good of Rotary?
No, if you could let me know ahead of time about how many people are coming to the installation.
Yes, we'll do.
We have the same room that we did last year.
The smaller one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless we have over 50 people, it's hard to get the bigger one.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. All right.
Jerica, I have a quick question.
Yes, Melissa?
Can we donate shoes all year long, or do we need to hold on to them and just donate them?
I would say hold on to them because I don't know when they're going to be collecting next time.
Okay.
I think they are going to do it again. I just don't know. Like, they've already donated all the ones that they have.
Okay.
But yeah, just hang on to anything, and then we'll get them next time around.
Just a FYI to everybody is I was stopped in Kohl's quickly today, and they had all their clearance stuff is an extra 50% off. So I got some shoes really, really cheap
Oh,
for
that's
kids.
nice.
Good.
Oh,
For
great.
kids, yeah.
Great, great. All right. Without further ado, Mr. Howard, I'm going to put myself on mute. If you would introduce our speaker, and then I will give over the screen share.
Speaker is Ryan Christensen. His topic is hypnosis, self-esteem, and emotional resilience. I just want to say, Chris, if you want to use, oh, you have it already. You can use your PowerPoint. We like speakers to go 20 to 30 minutes. I'm just letting you know we record this. That's the podcast. It'll be on YouTube, and many of our members watch this after the meeting. And so this is not everyone who will be watching you. And if the rest of us, could you mute your microphones while he's speaking, unless he asks a question, so we don't get any background noise. Chris, Ryan, it's your turn. Dan.
Great. Thank you guys so much. Let me go ahead and share my screen real fast and get that started. Okay, so I wanted to speak today on rethinking emotions. Hypnosis is an interesting topic, but I feel like this is actually going to be a bit better use to you guys in terms of something you can actually implement and play with yourselves. And I think it's going to have some interesting implications for how you do the work and how you sort of navigate life on your own.
Excuse me, Chris. I can barely hear you, and I'm full.
How about now? No?
I don't know if just me or someone else is having the same issue.
Me too.
Yeah, so I think it's your microphone, Chris.
Hold on. Let me give me just a second. Let me see if I can turn it up. Sorry about that. How about this? Is that better? No?
No.
It's
What about now?
It's a little loud. If you can move the mic closer to your mouth
How
and
about
talk louder. Talk louder.
Okay, how about this? That working? Okay. Sorry about that. So, like I said, I grew up in Kansas in the 1970s and 1980s. Turns out I have autism, but I wasn't diagnosed until I was almost 48 years old. So what I knew really is that the world worked for everybody else, not for me. That can be a tough ride. So around 21 years old, I went ahead and joined the Marine Corps to get out of Kansas, off to save the world, basically. Went on to work in the Air National Guard, and I worked national security issues in District of Columbia, mostly counterterrorism and counterproliferation. Around 2019, 2020, I realized the world does not want to be saved, so clearly I'm in the wrong line of business. And I started working on myself. I got into hypnosis through that, and over the next 3 or 4 years, I basically tried everything under the book to fix my mind. And everything helps, everything moved the ball forward, but unfortunately, because of the autism, I couldn't pretend that better equals fixed. So had to do some more deep diving. Went heavily into the subconscious mind. I kind of developed my own modality and a set of tools to fix it, and this is the product of that. One of the big pieces that I do is that I look at emotions in a very different way than most people do, and it creates some very interesting possibilities. First thing I want to kind of introduce you to is what I call the CEO model of the mind. All right, kind of looking at the mind as a company kind of gives us an interesting sort of functional way to look at it. Our conscious mind is our CEO, right? It's basically the commander of the whole ship. It's looking at direction, purpose. I want to go this way, and kind of looking at the question of what I want and what I don't want. Your senior management types are your rational mind. This is why we tend to identify most in the West. It's looking at how do things work, right? Looking at facts, looking at true and false. Your middle management type, that's your emotional mind. It's concerned about what things mean, right? Meaning and facts are very different things, right? America was founded in 1776. What that means has a very different connotation depending on whether you're English or American, right? And it's looking at good and bad and right and wrong. Your worker bees, your accountant department, everybody else, that's your instinctive mind. It's concerned about physical survival, keeping yourself alive. And its compass is basically pleasure and pain. Now, your subconscious mind is focused on right now. There was a great set of studies in Germany in the 1970s that basically proved that we become consciously aware of something about a half a second after it occurs. So in that half a second, your mind actually has to do a lot of work on its own. If If you can imagine driving down the road at 60 miles an hour and you're half a second behind everybody else, that's a really bad situation. So it has to figure out what's going on in the world really, really fast so it can respond to it appropriately. And it works on pattern matching, right? It's looking at what's the same. Based on what you've been through in your life before then, it's looking at, okay, what does this look like? Not really worried about the specifics. That's not as real a problem, right? And the emotions you feel are the output of this process. Basically, your mind saying, hey, this is the kind of situation we're dealing with. This is what we're facing. This is what's going on from my perspective, right? So it figures out what's going on, passes that emotion as a signal to your conscious mind, and then moves on to the next thing. What we think and what we feel are actually 100% correct at all times, even if and especially if they're different. There's a beautiful psychology experiment called the Stroop test, or the Stroop effect. Right? Basically, the test is they project some words on the screen, right, and the letters of that word are a particular color. You're supposed to press the button that corresponds to the color of those letters. So if the word is house and the letters are red, you're supposed to push the red button. If the word is cloud and the letters are blue, you're supposed to push the blue button. But if the word is blue and the colors of those letters are red, now you got an interesting problem. Because the part of your brain that processes symbols said that color is blue, because that's what that word means. The part of your brain that processes colors says that color is red, because that's what color the letters are. There's actually a delay where the third part of your mind steps in and says, okay, based on these two correct answers, which is actually the most useful in this situation, right? So different parts of your brain processing the world differently, creating different outputs, and they are the correct answer, right? Blue is the correct answer from the symbol perspective. Red is the correct answer from the color perspective. It's a question of which one's the most useful. In order to resolve this conflict between what we think and what we feel, we have to accept that both of these things are true. They're just looking at things from different perspectives. Ben Shapiro has this great saying, says that facts don't care about your feelings. Gravity works, doesn't matter how you feel about it. Taxes are due April 15th, doesn't really matter what you feel about it. But the opposite is also true. Feelings don't care about your facts. If anybody's trying to settle an argument by, there's no reason you should be angry like that, we all know how that ends, right? It just simply does not work. The emotions we feel are based on very high-level patterns. It's looking at the forest rather than the individual trees, which means the individual trees, the individual details, the individual events don't really matter that much, even if we change a few of them. This is why we can end up in a situation where we've got this feeling of I'm not good enough, and no matter how much work we do and how much we achieve, it kind of still sticks around. Because the idea that I'm not good enough is a forest-level view, and we're trying to change it by changing things on a tree-level view. Now, what we believe about who we are and how the world works determines what we need to do to survive and thrive, right? Work with somebody who's dealt with a lot of abuse. One of the most common ideas is that they are powerless, they're weak, they can't protect themselves. And as a child, trying to protect yourself from an adult, that's really pretty true. But that means you have to navigate the world in a very particular way. Right? There's a lot of challenges you can't face. There's a lot of situations you can't put yourself in because you can't protect yourself. But if you change that idea that you're powerless and weak to something like strong and resilient, well, that's a completely different way to move through the world, right? And we can do that by getting down and understanding how that belief came to be and reframing it down at the level of the subconscious mind. So, understanding what beliefs drive these different emotional responses is the key to leveraging them more effectively, because we can understand where they come from, understand what they're trying to tell us, and understand what problem they're trying to help us solve. The different emotions, each of them is posing a certain question, a certain challenge, right? And 5 of these are essentially associated with the 5 different survival responses that we deal with a threat, right? First one's anger. Anger says there's something out there trying to mess with you, and you can use force or violence of some kind to overcome it. It's not necessarily physical force, right? You can also think about this in terms of social pressure. You could think about it in terms of psychological pressure. You could think about it in terms of even financial pressure, right? There's something out there that's a problem. You can make it go away. You just got to leverage enough force. Fear is the opposite. There's a problem. You can't fight it. You can't overcome it with force. So the best opportunity is to get out of the way, to run, right? So the question is, what's out there that's threatening, and how do I get away? Anxiety is very interesting. The freeze response is you're walking through a forest, and you hear a branch snap off in the distance. So you freeze. Why? Because you know there's something out there that's dangerous. It's not on you yet, but you got to figure out what it is so you can figure out how to respond to it. Anxiety is looking in the future, saying there's a problem coming down the road, right? So I need to understand what that problem is, and I need to understand how to deal with it before I move forward. The fawn response is basically roll over and show your belly, right? Your boss starts yelling, you're like, okay, whatever. You're right, I'm wrong. Happens all the time, right? This is a surrender response. Essentially, you can't fight, you can't run, you can't hide. So the best thing is just to go ahead and tell that guy whatever he needs. The last one is one we almost never talk about, and it's a really important one. It's called the flop response. If you think about like two kids in a fight on the playground, big crowd gathers around them, one of them starts to lose. All right, what happens? Well, he turns, tries to run away, can't because there's a big crowd, so he drops to the ground, covers up his head and his belly, and he just takes it. He's got no other option. Right? It's the idea that you're out of options. Can't get away from whatever it is. So the best possible thing you can do is protect yourself as best you can and just endure. And this is depression. Right? This is something that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's part of the reason why we have such a difficult time dealing with things like abuse when we're a kid. Right? If the only thing you can do is just take the beating, if the only thing you can do is endure, it's easy to feel like you didn't do it right. But if you're still breathing, you did it right, or at least well enough. And that last one, reframing things in terms of you did exactly what you needed to get through that situation, makes a real big difference in the way we interpret things. The thing is that this is not always about a physical threat. Quite often it's not. It's often about protecting yourself from emotional pain. A lot of us have been through a lot going through our life. There's a lot of little buttons we have, a lot of things we wish weren't true about ourselves, a lot of things we don't like about the way we've lived our lives. When those things get pointed out, when there's things that push that button, it hurts. It hurts a lot. So your mind will often use these different emotions to get you to avoid or deal with these situations that might cause you emotional pain. Unfortunately, if that pain gets too high, if you're suffering for too long, that can lead to some very bad outcomes. Now, there's two other survival-related emotions. These are not necessarily threat-related. Sadness is one of the big ones. Right? You lost something valuable. You lost something that was precious to you that you needed to survive. And regret is kind of the opposite. You had the opportunity to gain something valuable, something you needed, and you messed it up. Because these are all related to survival, your mind cannot take no for an answer. It's asking you for help to solve a problem. It's asking you for help to figure things out. It cannot take no for an answer. So often what happens is if you don't engage with it, if you don't address it, it just yells louder. You're not listening, it screams louder. But if you do start to engage with it, if you do start to play with it, there's no need for it to shout because you're helping it do exactly what it needs. So how do you engage with these emotions? Well, the first thing to recognize is that your mind is always trying to help you get the best outcome it believes is possible. Right? It's trying to protect you from something, or it's trying to help you get to where you want in life. So if you assume that your mind is doing what it can to help you, it's a lot easier to sort of deal with these things, right? Instead of your mind trying to mess with you, instead of your mind trying to hurt you, it's trying to help you. These different threat-related emotions, try and figure out what's the button being pushed. How am I getting threatened, right? Is it physical? Probably not. If it's emotional pain, fair enough. What does this mean about me that this is happening? What's the buttons that are getting pushed, right? It's often related to our identity, often related to our ego. This guy is saying, I messed up, I'm a screw up, whatever it is. Awesome. That's pushing that insecurity button that says I'm not good enough. Great. Now I understand what's at play. Second thing is, what do I need to change this? What do I need to make this go away? How do I increase the space? How do I make this not a problem? And if the issue is depression, well, a couple different possibilities. Sometimes the only thing you can do is wait it out. If you're injured, right, you break your leg, there's nothing you can do to speed up the process. You're just going to have to deal with it. But if that's not the case, if you're out of options, fair enough. What do you need to generate some options? And this is the point where you need to reach out for some help. Talk to somebody. And it doesn't really matter who. Because even if they don't have any good ideas, now you know a lot of stuff that's not going to work. And that kind of narrows your search parameters for trying to find a good solution. Sadness and regret. Often we focus on the thing itself. right? You break up with your girlfriend, break up with your boyfriend, you've lost that relationship. That's big. That hurts. That's really easy to focus on the person that went away. But that person is just a symbol, right? You just delivered a certain something in your life, made you feel a certain way. So if you get down to the essence of what that is, things make a lot more sense. You lost the companionship, you lost the love, you lost the way they made you feel. You lost the partner that supported you. Those are the things you really needed from that moment. The other thing to recognize is that experience is what we get when we don't get what we want. Experience is pretty valuable because it helps you navigate life in a better way. So if you can figure out the experience, if you can figure out the lessons, well, that's a lot of value you're taking in response to that loss. And last but not least, there's a big difference between an Irish wake and a Catholic funeral. An Irish wake is a celebration of life, right? It's remembering all the good things. It's remembering all the amazing things that happened. Mourning loss is focusing on the fact that they're not here. The more we can shift to the positives, the more we can shift about what we're taking from that, the more we can shift to celebrating the good things, the less we have to focus on the sadness and the regret. A couple other emotions that we need to deal with are shame and guilt. These are big ones, right? Shame means you failed to meet a standard of some kind. Right? You're supposed to live up to a certain way of being and you failed to do so. But the first question you need to ask is this actually an appropriate standard? Right? A lot of people who are into fitness say, I've got to go to the gym 5 times a week. Well, if you're sick, if you're messed up, is it actually smart to do that? It may not actually be appropriate to hold yourself to that standard. When I was in the Marine Corps, I had to do a physical fitness test every year. Right? I had to do pull-ups and push-ups and a 3-mile run under a certain time because that was required. That was necessary to be able to do that job. So that was an appropriate standard to hold myself to. These days, I'm almost 50 years old. I haven't worked out in quite a while. I haven't been running in decades. It's probably not appropriate to feel a lot of shame about the fact that I cannot meet my old physical fitness standards I used to have in the Marine Corps. But if it is an appropriate standard, what do I need to do to fix it? In that case, shame is actually a very healthy thing because it's telling you something you need to fix. Guilt is difficult. Guilt is a situation where I've got a problem, you've got a solution, you're not giving it to me. So I'm going to make you feel bad until you do. But a couple of things. Number one, they've got a problem, you don't. They're trying to make their problem your problem. So do they actually care about you, your boundaries, and what you need? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're just in a lot of need. They're just looking for any sort of things. But quite often, they're just trying to make things easier on themselves at your expense. You're the person that gets to decide whether you're going to help them or not. That's entirely your decision. Nobody can make it for you. You're the one that gets to set those conditions. Responsibility is a big part of this, though, right? If I wreck somebody's car, maybe I do need to take them to the airport. If I break somebody's window, maybe I do need to fix it for them. But emotions are only our interpretation of the world. They're how we're seeing things. They're how we are, judging the situation and what we need to do. Nobody makes us feel those things. That's our interpretation. So do we really need to feel responsible for what they feel? I'm assuming we're not trying to mess with them in some way, shape, or form. Probably not. Now, if they're a friend, if they're a coworker, if they're someone that's important in your life, maybe you should sit down and take a moment if they're reacting in a way you didn't expect, right? You did a certain thing, you expected a certain reaction, didn't get that, well, probably a good reason to figure that out. If they get mad or upset about something you said, might be a good idea to figure that out. But that doesn't mean you're responsible for how they feel. It's not your responsibility to fix it. So maybe you shouldn't feel as guilty as perhaps we often do. One of the biggest things you can do for yourself in any of these situations is simply ask, what am I missing? Best possible question, right? Because problems are very easy to solve when you understand what the problem is. The hard part is trying to figure out what the problem is in the first place. Your mind is trying to ask you for help to solve that problem, and every emotion is telling you what kind of problem you're looking for. So if you ask it, what am I missing? It's going to help you figure that out, because that's what it needs in the first place. And understanding what kind of problem you're looking for makes it a heck of a lot easier to find it. Also gives you a better perspective on people's reactions. Right? If they get triggered, take a look. What kind of emotion are they expressing? They're getting angry? Great. You threaten them in some way, shape, or form. Pushing a button some kind that most likely related to their ego, to their identity. Great. What kind of things are you bringing up in them? It might be interesting to know so you can understand how to help them navigate this stuff or find a better way to deal with things. What do they want to be true? What do they not want to be false? Right? Often it's like I feel like I have to be a winner, so anything that makes me feel like anything other than a winner is a threat. You know, if I grew up poor, anything's going to remind me of that. Anything, the idea that I'm not good enough, don't measure up, often really, really huge, right? If you think about imposter syndrome, this is a big one, right? Everybody's telling you how good you are, you can't accept it. It's another big sign, some underlying insecurity. And if you can understand and are looking at his emotions in these ways, trying to identify what kind of threats and stuff are going on underneath, it's going to be a lot easier to figure out how to help that person. Lastly, but not least, give your emotions their due. Your mind is built to handle those things for a reason. It's built to have that pattern matching machine. Is built to help you live life in the best possible way. It's trying to help you win. It's not trying to hurt you. It's not trying to mess you in there, and it's not even really trying to sabotage you. It's trying to give you what you need. So if you give them their due, if you assume they're true for a while to figure out how long enough to figure out how they're true, well, it's going to be a lot easier to get to where you want to be in life. I wrote a book on this and a lot more stuff called Winner Peace. It's called How to End Inner Conflict and Make Success Inevitable. It's a lot more. It goes into a lot more about how the mind works, some other tips and tactics, and a lot of other reframes to help you kind of shift some of these beliefs that you may have been carrying around for quite a while. Find it on Amazon on all the different formats. And yes, this is the kind of thing I work with people on with hypnosis. It's a lot easier to get down there in the subconscious mind and fix this stuff directly instead of trying to figure out how to do it from a conscious perspective. That's the end of my presentation. I'm more than happy to take any questions if you might have some.
Thank you so much, Ryan. As we get off mute and gather back around, Mr. Chris, you have your hand up.
Just unmute me.
All right. Hey, first off, Mr. Ryan, it was great. Everything was rock solid. Also, Simplify from Marine here.
Mm-hmm.
I have two questions. You kind of already answered one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now you say you made your own. How do you pronounce it?
Modality.
Modality. Okay.
Yes.
Now, how did you come across doing that?
Well, I became a hypnotist back in 2020. I got certified in February, right before everything shut down. So after that, I had a lot of time on my hands to really kind of practice with guys that I knew from online. I really focused on limiting beliefs from the start. You know, one of the things about hypnosis is we typically talk about it in terms of suggestion and persuasion. Right? I'm going to make you cluck like a chicken. I'm going to make you stop smoking, something like that. But I've got 23 years of intelligence experience. I got 23 years of figuring out stuff that people don't want me to know. Everything you do, every kind of pattern of behavior has a reason. Your mind's trying to do something on purpose. There's a pattern, there's a mechanism that drives it. Okay? Every bit of information I need about what that is and why is in the back of your head. Hypnosis gives me access to it. Why am I not asking questions? So I started putting together a bunch of tools that I found from different schools. It's like, okay, these things are going to let me get the information I need. And it's a matter of figuring out what the right questions are to ask. The next thing I realized is that, we're actually looking at the world through two lenses at the same time. We're looking at the forest and the trees, rational and emotional. And since nobody's looking at that forest perspective, it has a completely different set of conclusions, completely different set of beliefs and understandings that built from that different perspective. And nobody's dealing with that. So why not take a look at those beliefs, those constructions? Because if we can change how we understand and believe, what we understand and believe about ourselves, massive difference in how we navigate the world. Going from I'm weak and powerless to I'm strong and resilient is huge. From a negative view of who you are to a positive view of who you are is huge. Going from I'm not good enough to I am good enough is huge. Those are just emotional constructions. Came about it from a reason. If we understand the logic chain that created that, we can just prove that, create a new one, draw a different conclusion.
Hey, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Miss Juliet.
Hey there. Thank you, Ryan. Great topic. My question is about hypnosis as a therapy. I mean, clearly it is, and I'm wondering how its effectiveness is compared to like some of the other therapies we see, like light therapy. You mentioned that, the autism, and I know that a lot of people with sensory processing disorders benefit from those type of therapies. Has hypnosis progressed enough to be competitive with that?
It's a really interesting question. Used to be really interested in finance. Back in 2009, 2008, during the financial crisis, one of the guys I was following said, All models are wrong. Some models are useful, right? Everything's a map. It's not the terrain, right? It's a description of what's going on, not actually what's happening. So you can use different tools for different problems, right? And like if somebody's deep in trauma, if somebody's really messed up, hypnosis is not the answer. It's a voluntary process. You have to let me lead you there. A lot of people are not willing to be that vulnerable. The different tools we use, the different ways we use hypnosis is very, you come up with very different things. I haven't found anything that's as effective at getting to these deep beliefs. But that's not always the biggest problem you're facing, right? Some of the stuff I've used, talk therapy was really good when I was trying to, figure out why my marriage is failing. That's not something I can hypnotize myself through. That's an understanding piece, right? Dealing with some of the stuff that happened when I was young, talk therapy was the best. Cognitive behavioral therapy, great for kind of managing emotional responses so you got some space. Internal family systems starts letting you deal with some of the subconscious structures in a safer, more conscious way, right? Gives you a way to kind of play with it and understand it. The way I see it is whatever tool feels best for you at this moment, use that. At a certain point, you're going to hit a point of diminishing returns. Instead of continuing to use that thing, figure out what's next, right? You've hit a point where that's not the most effective tool anymore. What's the next problem? Eventually, you're going to get to a point where the most stuff is going to be subconscious. And the only real ways to play down there are psychedelics and hypnosis. Psychedelics were a big part of my journey, right? But it's mostly about opening the door, letting some stuff come out so you can play with it. And it's going to take you on whatever ride it chooses to, whether you really wanted to or not, right? But it's beautiful for getting awareness. It's beautiful for breaking some old patterns. It's beautiful for creating space and possibility. It definitely did for me. It's a big part of why I'm alive. But the capacity to change things while you're down there is pretty small. So I like kind of using them in combination. Use some psychedelics to figure out what's going on, then use hypnosis, go down and fix it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Very interesting perspective. Ms. Linda, you had a question?
No, I was going to, do you do hypnosis or you've just been hypnotized to go through all this?
Now, this is what I've been doing for full-time for about 4.5, 5 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Like I said, world doesn't want to be saved. I'd rather do this to help people.
Yes, Mr. David?
I have a question for the speaker. I always ask the Marines. I was Navy, but I'm going to make a statement, see if you agree with it.
Sure.
If Gunny ain't happy, then nobody's happy. Is that a true
Gunny ain't happy? Well, the wonderful thing about gunnery sergeants is they're here to help you learn. What lessons they want to teach you, that may differ by day to day, and it can be as gentle or as ungentle a process as you want to make it.
And if somebody says, what's a gunny, they were not a Marine.
Correct. I never dealt with one either.
Any other questions for Mr. Ryan? Well, thank you again, Ryan, for giving us your time tonight. We certainly appreciate it and had some good feedback from our members. Let's go ahead and flip back over. Start. Oh, that did not work. Let me try that again. Screen.
I just have another comment to make about our club. I'm going to be sending out invoice statements in the next week or so. And so please try to get your dues into me as soon as possible.
But you prefer check instead of paying online?
Yeah, we have to pay $9.25 for credit cards. But if that's the way you want to do it, okay, but maybe you can add a little extra. Also, international dues have gone up, district dues have gone up, so it helps if you do pay cash so that we don't increase our dues.
Perfect.
Our district dues now, I think, are around $45. Chris, is that right? They were $35, they went up to $45. Chris? Did Chris leave? Anyway, and then also like I said, international went up. And
yeah, so they're going up like $3 to $5 a year over the next 3 years.
Right.
Every year.
Yeah, every 6 months it'll increase a little bit. But anyway, if you can send me a check or you can do Zelle, and that always saves time. And anyway, whatever, we just like to get your dues in.
Perfect.
So Linda, what is the total?
The total is $250 if you pay. Okay. And that's for the whole year. You know, the advantage of our club is we don't have meals, so therefore you're not paying $250 a quarter. So, and we have great speakers.
That's really a good deal. I pay $4.50 and I don't have any meals. It's $20 a meal if I have one.
$450 a quarter.
It's $450 for the year. Are you? Are you 2 and a quarter? Are you $250 for the quarter?
No, $250 for the year.
That's what I thought I heard you say.
Yeah. But when you said $450, I thought that was your quarterly, because some clubs pay quarterly over $200 a quarter.
Well, some of our members may do that, but
Yeah.
it's not cheaper to pay it all at once. But I don't want to mess with it, so I pay the $4.50. That gets me the right to be a member.
There you go.
Most clubs are the most expensive part of their being a Rotarian.
Yeah. So is there anything that we're going to be leaving in about, in 3 weeks, and today we'll be somewhere in Colorado, I guess, on our way to Calgary. Is there anything anybody want from Calgary? Or
Yeah, I know. I wanted that name badge.
okay, I looked them up. We can get them from if we order at least 8. I think we get them for $9.95 each. So
$9.95. Okay, that's a good deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're normally $3 or $4 more than that, I think.
Yeah.
But if we order in quantity, it's less. And that's another thing. If people want to order, go ahead and call me or text me, whatever, and let me know, and I can put the order in while I'm up there. And sometimes they will go ahead and print them out there during their spare time. I think Russell Hampton's going up there. If not, I will order them, and I would like to have them back by the 15th, so the people that are local, we can just go ahead and give it to them.
All right. I'll send out an email to Linda, to everybody.
I wanted a Hudson Bay blanket. They're only $500 for a blanket.
I'm just talking about
For a blanket?
yes, they're the wool.
Canadian.
They're the really
400, yeah.
Hudson Bay is an old company, and I bought him when we first started going together, but it was only like $150, and now they're up to $500. So anyway,
All right. Well, please join me in the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it
the truth?
Second, is it
Is
fair
it fair
and
to all concerned?
Third, will it build
goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth, will it
Be beneficial to all concerned?
And fifth, will it be fun?
Fun.
Thank you guys for coming today. Thank you to our guests, and we'll see you next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.